Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about a very basic idea in economics. Again, this is a lecture series on introductory economics. So if you're enrolled in a course, something like junior college or BA first year, you will be introduced to such things. In later years, these things will be taken for granted that you know these basic ideas as a part of economics literature. So today we'll talk about production possibility frontier or production possibility curve. And it's nothing, again, everything like we mentioned in previous lectures, that everything in economics is basically a representation, a model. Okay, it's nothing more than that. Production possibility frontier actually, it's an idea that essentially comes from the idea of scarcity. Okay, so in economics literature it's generally assumed that things are scarce, that means things are limited actually, and wants are unlimited, so to speak. Hypothetically speaking, wants of society are unlimited. They want to exploit all that they can to their advantage. Again, here it's an assumption, and owing to that scarcity, the economic theorizing essentially focuses on how resources can be allocated most efficiently. So that's the basic idea. Now, whether you agree with it or not, if you're enrolled in a course, you have to at least follow the literature as it is presented to you. It's always a good practice if you're appearing for an exam to make graphs and such. It's easier, gives you a snapshot. So gives evaluator a snapshot of your answer. So here, and don't be scared by graph making. Okay, here what we have is we have two commodities, computers and cars. Now we have already talked about factors of production. Okay, what are factors of production? Well, factors of production are simply nothing but the input to production. We talked about it in circular flow diagram. Okay, so factors of production were nothing but the input to the production. Okay, really bad handwriting, it's gonna be like that because it's a mouse with which I'm writing. Anyway, so let's say with given factors of production, let's go with the initials. With the given factors of production, let's say X or Y, whatever you want to call it, you can only produce either so much of this or so much of that. It's a hypothetical example to exemplify what production possibility frontier means. Essentially, this idea is that of trade-off, that there is a trade-off between what you can produce. Okay, just like there is a trade-off between what you can consume with a limited income, there is always also a trade-off between what you can produce and what you can't produce. So what do you have to give up in order to get something else? So the basic idea remains pretty much the same, and the logic is very basic. It's a basic Aristotelian logic. Let's say there are 2 points in space. Okay, so you can either be at this point or you can either be at this point, but you cannot be at both the points. That's very, very intuitive. So this is what it is, that you can't be in two places at the same time, or a particle cannot be in two places at the same time. Just like that, factors of production, if being used for producing something like computers, cannot be used, the same factors of production cannot be used for producing cars. And of course factors of production are divisible, so you can make something like, as the graph represents, you can make 2200 cars, computers, because this vertical axis is for computers in this hypothetical example. So either you can make 2200 computers and 600 cars. Yeah, So this is what it is essentially representing. Alright, each point on this is representing what you can do and what you cannot do. So if you're making this much of this, you can only make this much of this. If you're devoting all your resources into just making computers, let's use another color. If you're devoting all your resources into making only computers, as the example suggests, you can only make 3,000 of them. Or if you're devoting all your resources into manufacturing cars, you can make only 1,000 of them. As you can see, the rate of exchange between these two is 3:1 or 1:3, whichever you want to look at it. But as there is one more idea here, that look at this curve actually. Yeah, it's a curve, it's not a line, it's not something like this, it's not a linear function, it's not a line, it's a non-linear function. Don't mind the background noise, it's just the neighbors. So as I was saying that it's not a straight line. Now the simple idea is that if you want to produce more of something, okay, you keep on producing more and more of something. Let's clear this out. If you want to produce more and more of something, you will have to devote more and more resources into producing that. This idea is related to the idea of diminishing marginal utility, or diminishing utility of something when it is used in production. And that is why I said that the ideas of production and consumption are not that different. Okay, production, I'm talking about the theoretical ideas used in how consumption patterns can be defined and how production patterns can be defined. Those ideas logically are not very different. So you can if you want to produce, so you can use the logic of the same logic in both places, whether you're thinking of it from the point of view of consumption or from the point of view of production. Okay, so as you keep on producing more of something, the amount of resources it's gonna consume are gonna be more. Simply speaking, let's say if you want to make 2,000 cars, you can only make 2,000 cars, you can only make 700. Why am I mixing these up? 2,000 computers, you can only make 700 cars. Yeah, look at this. But if you just sacrifice 100 cars, you can actually make 200 computers. Now we have too many of computers. Let's take this for example. Okay, if you want to manufacture 1,500 computers, then you can actually get away with something like 750 cars, maybe. Let's say hypothetically speaking. So that means the difference that here you're making 500 extra and you're only letting go 150. Okay, sorry, 850, let's say. So you're only letting go, or you can call it 800 also. I mean, just remember, it's a hypothetical example. What I'm trying to suggest is that as you go on producing more of something, the rate of exchange is actually the amount that is going to require for producing more of something else. That amount is going to decline, right? So here, going by this rate of exchange, here if you're producing 1 and you let go of, let's say, so the ratio is 1:3. So if you let go of one car, right, if you let go of one car, that one car is going to release enough resources in order to get you 3 computers. If you, let's say, let go of 300 cars, that will get you enough resources to manufacture 2,000 computers. Now the rate of exchange has actually fallen. Here the ratio was 1:3, and I know it's a bit if you're new to this, it's a bit difficult to grasp, but it's the idea remains the same, and the same ideas will actually be explored later in other concepts, so you can always revisit and understand it better. But if you really focus, think about it. If you just let go of one car, you can actually manufacture 3 computers. That means the ratio is 1:3. If you manufacture, let's say if you let go 300 cars, you can manufacture 2000. So what is the ratio then? Yeah, what is the ratio? The ratio is 2000 is to 700, which is something like 20:7, which is an odd figure, but it's definitely not 1:3. It's less than that. That means you can, if you let go a lot of cars, then that doesn't mean you can manufacture, you can invest the same quantity of factors of production that are being released by letting go of 300 cars. The same quantity of factors of production, if used in manufacturing computers, it will not be in the exact same ratio all the time. So the rate of exchange between these two commodities, in essence, that's what I'm trying to say. In essence, the rate of exchange between these two commodities, as far as the factors of production are employed, the rate of exchange varies. Okay, it changes. It doesn't remain constant. Why? Think of it from a common sense perspective. If you have too much of something, the value or the utility of that what you have too much of is not as much. So if you have $1 million, you can just give away $100. Not that people do that often, but from a common sense point of view, you can think of it like that. But if you have only $100, it's hard to give it all away, isn't it? So the idea is, as you have more of something, so similarly, this is from a consumption point of view, by the way. Now this, from a production point of view, if you keep on producing more and more of something, if let's say we want to produce more and keep on producing more and more of it, we'll actually run out. That's what they're saying. We'll run out of resources. We'll not have enough resources to actually produce more than 3000. And that is why from a point of view of literature, it is related to the idea of scarcity. That you can't have infinite resources in order to just keep on producing more and more. Now let me give you another example, something which is called as a shift in the production possibility frontier, and this shift is not something that we are going to only experience in production possibility frontier. Whether it's the demand curve or supply curve or anything like that, we'll always have something like shifts in these curves. And as you can show on the line that I have drawn, it shifts this curve upwards. So let's take a look at it with a better diagram. Okay. So this one is the same diagram, as you can see, with a very minor change. Alright, the changes, there has been a minor shift, and now a new frontier has been created where you can actually produce 4000 computers instead of. Now what could be the cause of this? The only possible cause of this seems to be the case that the resources can be more efficiently exploited in order to make computers. So the changes, okay, the changes in computer technology will actually lead to the changes in the production possibilities also. So earlier you would require more of factors of production to produce a given amount of computers, but as the time, with time technologies change, and with changing technologies the production changes. So if the production changes, then you have a shift as signified by the arrow. However, it's assumed in this example that no change has been occurred in the car industry. Okay, so there are still 1,000 cars that are being produced, but now there are 4,000 computers that can be produced, and hence the rate of exchange of that will also change. And if it was linear, then it would have been, the rate of exchange would have been simply 1:4. But as we have already discussed, why it is linear, because as you keep on producing more and more of something, you require more and more resources. However, the shift is something like this, that from the previous position we are much better off. So from a theoretical point of view, what it says is that if you stay on the production possibility frontier, whether you're talking about the previous diagram or this one, as you stay on production possibility frontier, this is the most efficient way, or this is the most efficient understanding of how resources can be divided or distributed between two given or more than two, but at one time we can only talk about two. So at any two given commodities, how the distribution of resources could be made most efficient by computing or trying to understand how much resources or factors of production will be required for one particular commodity. Yeah, so that's the idea of limited or scarce factors of production and production possibility frontier, production possibility curve. Alright, so see you in the next lecture. That's it for now.